Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Thursday. It is Therapy Thursday. How are you? I'm Dr. Triffy. It is Transforming Trauma Podcast time with Dr. Triffy. Tonight I'm talking about stress and how to fix it. How to fix a little bit of stress. So as I start, I learned y'all to use my own little sound bowl for my sound and my music so that I would not get copyright strikes. Hmm? So many mornings when I wake up, I go to my sound bowl. And many times when I feel anxious, let's say stressed out, I go to a sound bowl. So welcome y'all every Thursday at this time. When I have time and when I can, I show up to teach strategies using psychological techniques, theories, processes to help us think better so we can feel better and we can do better. My goal is to teach us how to transform trauma into power, transform trauma into positives, into strengths. Okay? Tonight, I want to talk about stress. And what motivated me to talk about stress is because I read a post this week on Facebook, and somebody was noting that many young people in their 40s are dying on the lovely nature island of the Caribbean. Now, I am interested in that because I am from Dominica, the nature island of the Caribbean. I'm a licensed psychologist in Georgia, but I am from Dominica originally. So I think this is an important topic, not just to the people from Dominica who listen to me, but for everybody, especially as we make our way out of the pandemic. Out of the pandemic. So we're out of the pandemic officially as of May, I want to say 23rd. The CDC said the pandemic is officially over. But if you think about it, how many people are really still suffering from the effects of the pandemic? Hmm? So let's talk a little bit about stress. I'm hoping you listen with me all the way to the end to find out how to fix it yourself so that we don't leave it to Jesus to fix it. This is important again, that we don't leave it to Jesus to fix our stress. Why am I saying that? This is July. Every month there's a particular, oh, this is this month, this is that month. July is actually Minority Mental Health Month. Now, I don't like that word minority because I have dark skin, but I am not a minority anything. I've never claimed that title of minority. I invite you not to either. But I appreciate what they're trying to do. I appreciate what they're trying to do. And I mentioned the fact that we want to help Jesus to fix it because people like you and me, who look like you and me, we love the Lord. Yeah? We love our faith. That's actually one of our protective factors for African American people and people of African origin. The fact that we have strong belief in a higher power is actually one way that we mitigate the effects of stress. However, Jesus cannot fix all of it. Okay? So go ahead, like, share, follow, and sit, get a glass of juice, sky juice if you have it, and let's talk. All right? So I want to show you something. I want to show you why this is so important to me. If you're from Dominica, or if you're wise and you're into longevity, if you are one of those people who is focused on how do I live a long and healthy life, You might know this little lady right there with those bright eyes and that big old smile. And you might have heard of the centenarian phenomenon in Dominica. Now, what is that? So, in 2003, y'all, in 2003, which was not a long time ago, Dominica, my little island, my little home island, gained worldwide notoriety. Why? Because we were contending for the position of being the home of the oldest living human being on planet Earth. Now, the Guinness Book of World Records, they came down to Dominica, they did their investigations, and if you listen to us Dominicans, we'll say we don't agree with their final decision not to officially recognize this lovely lady you see on the picture. Her name is Mapampo, as the oldest human being in 2003, because all she could generate was a baptismal certificate, okay, that was issued by the Roman Catholic Church of Dominica. Now, Dominica's registry office suffered a huge fire during a period of unrest in the 70s, I want to say. And I'm assuming her official birth certificate got destroyed, maybe in that fire. But because there was no legal proof, she did not win the title. But if you ask us in Dominica, if you ask us, Mapampo holds the record for 2003 for the oldest human being on the planet that year. Her name was Mapampo. Her official name was Elizabeth Pampo Israel of Portsmouth, Dominica, on the northern side. And Mapampo was not an anomaly because Dominica in 2003 was boasting perhaps the second highest per capita number of centenarians on planet Earth. My paternal grandpa, Grandpa Niall, died at 106, and my maternal grandpa died at 92. Okay, and they were not weird. So, for Dominican people right now, looking at so many young people dying in their 40s is very concerning. It's very concerning. And as a psychologist who is familiar with the very crucial role that stress plays in not just mental health and illness, but also physical health and physical illness, I have a theory that the stress level is way too high. It's way too high. And I don't think it's just for Dominica alone. I think because we're tinier than many other countries, perhaps we're feeling the effects very strongly. So if you think about it, Dominica experienced Hurricane Erica, and then really soon after that experienced Hurricane Maria. And then before we could barely get out of Hurricane Maria, we experienced what? COVID. And in a chronic way, in a long-term way, there's also a lot of ideological difference on the island that I think has polarized the country, that I think on an ongoing sort of chronic basis is very stressful day to day, sometimes minute to minute if you're reading Facebook. So let's come to tonight's topic. In 2020, the American Psychological Association, APA, did a stress survey in America. And based on those results in 2020, the APA said that we are facing a national mental health crisis that, according to them, could yield serious health, physical health, and social consequences for years to come. So my question to you is, how are you doing today? Or are you, who are listening to me today, how are you doing today? Like I said, the CDC said that COVID is officially over as a pandemic. But how are you doing today? Mm, uh, COVID might be officially gone, but what about AI and the robots and the UFOs and the war in Ukraine and the Great Awakening and TikTok? And how are you doing today? Hmm? How are you doing today? So, what is stress? What is stress? Hmm? Stress is how we react under pressure, under what we deem to be threatening. And it's usually when we're in a situation where we don't feel as if we have enough resources to manage the situation or to control the situation. So it could be an individual experience. For example, you have a lot of responsibilities on your plate right now to manage. The kids are just graduating. Some of you are thinking about college and high school and money and school fees, tuition, all of that stuff. You might experience stress as part of a group. So if your family is going through a difficult time, one of the parents loses a job, one of the parents passes away, and there's one parent left grieving who also has to continue working to take care of the kids. Hmm? Or you might experience stress as part of your community. For example, I just mentioned the idea that this month is supposed to be Minority Mental Health Month. If you're part of a racial group or a political group, depending on where you are, perhaps like on a small island, your group might be experiencing discrimination. And for you, as part of that community, part of that group, you're feeling the stress, you're feeling the pressure, you're feeling threatened and uncomfortable and anxious on an ongoing basis, perhaps. Or you might be the member of a society like the people in Dominica who went through Erica, Maria, COVID, like almost back to back. Yeah. So when is stress a problem? When is stress a problem? It becomes a problem. It becomes a problem when we cannot, and not just cannot, or when our ability to take care of our tasks in life gets compromised. Yeah. You can have acute stress, which is okay, I had something happen and that stress lasted for a few minutes to a few hours. Or you can have chronic stress. So typically, normally, you go through a stressful event. Let's say you're driving in traffic and somebody cuts across you, or they stop too fast and you had to slam on your brakes to avoid an accident. Of course, that's stressful, but it's acute. You get irritated and you're frustrated. You might tell them a few French words, but within the next hour, you're back to homeostasis, to balance. But you could have stress that lasts for a long time. Hmm? What if your dad is elderly and you are caring for your elderly dad? And to top it off, elderly dad might have dementia. Hmm? What if you are working in an environment where you've got a supervisor or even a coworker who every day you go in, this person is watching you sideways? Hmm? What if you're living with a mate who is not kind? What if you're living in a culture, in a society where it feels as if you're under pressure politically, hmm? or because of your race or your ethnic background? So that's chronic stress. That's chronic stress. It's a feeling of being under threat or under the pressure of victimization on an ongoing basis. So is stress in and of itself a mental health problem? Well, of course not. Not, right? Of course not. Because I could be experiencing stress from those examples that I gave, but I might have a way of living with and working through those events or those realities that'll be different than your way. Okay? But depending on the way we manage the stress, of course, stress can cause mental health problems. Also, depending on our biological predisposition, say in our family, there's a long history of some sort of medical condition. Hmm? Like, I'll give you an example, like schizophrenia. So, schizophrenia is a mental illness where people have sensory uh, confusion, mental confusion. They might see things other people don't see, or they hear things other people don't hear. But would you believe that even if I have a relative and I have family history of schizophrenia, depending on my level of stress, that, say, biological predisposition might never show up. But depending on the amount of stress in my environment, I might develop those symptoms. So, this stress and how to create your environment in such a way that you minimize your stress level is very, very important. Okay? Stress can cause mental health problems like an anxiety disorder. If I'm constantly anxious, yeah, and I'm not figuring out ways, or I haven't been able to find support or assistance to help me navigate that, that could just keep escalating until it becomes, it gets to a level where it's too much for me, it's too big for me, and many of us have to go to the hospital to get support to bring us back down into balance, into homeostasis. If I'm experiencing too much stress on an ongoing basis, I might develop post traumatic stress disorder, which of course is going to interfere with the way I can live and enjoy my life on a day to day basis. If I'm experiencing too much stress, again, without ways to manage that, I might develop depression to the point where I might not want to be alive anymore. So, becoming suicidal does not start off with suicidal thinking. It starts with me facing a stressful event, or an event that I perceive to be stressful, or an experience that I perceive to be stressful. And that thing keeps just building and building and building. Okay? Now, the other side is also true. Mental health problems can also cause stress. Okay? You might feel stressed about managing your medication. You might feel stressed and anxious about having to go to the doctor's office or to any of the treatments that you have. And some people might end up using substances like alcohol to manage their stress, like smoking, right? It's like cigarettes to manage their stress, or other mood altering drugs, cannabis, the lovely word, cannabis, cocaine, heroin, all of it. Okay. And this now begins to come back around and impact your mental health, causing you further stress, causing your family further stress. Financial stress, we've got to get help for rehabilitation, we've got to get help for managing those symptoms. Relationship problems, because your spouse or your family members might not enjoy being around you if you are high, if you are very depressed. And so it's just the problems just mushroom and become bigger and bigger and bigger. So I want to give you tonight 3 ways for you to tell, because especially for people who grew up on a tiny island like my home island, where I personally did not fully understand the concept of stress until I was an adult. I had no idea what stress meant. I would listen to movies and watch movies, and people would say, "Oh, I feel stressed out." And I couldn't conceptualize it because at the time, that word was not a big word. I think it's different now, but I still think there's some confusion about what stress really feels like in your body, in your body. So I want to give you 3 ways for you to tell how you might be under stress, how you might be under too much stress, and that signals, therefore, that you need to find ways to manage it better. Because if not, your physical health will suffer and your mental health will suffer. Okay? Now, there are many ways you can tell if you're feeling stressed. There are many ways. I'm going to give you 3. So, number 1, which I think gets often overlooked or minimized, is irritability. Hmm? Irritability. You're feeling irritated, angry quickly. You're getting angry quickly. You're impatient. You're feeling just kind of wound up. Your family, people around you in your environment might begin to tell you, "Why are you snapping on me? Why are you snapping on me so much? What's going on? What's happening? You're different." Hmm? Your stress level might be too high. Okay? Number 2, you might feel as if your thoughts are racing and you can't switch them off. So it's like just thought, you're just thinking the whole time, right? You're supposed to be doing work, you're supposed to be getting ready for bed, and you can't shut your brain down. So it feels as if your mind is on fire. It's just rapid thoughts, and it feels like you cannot switch them off. Okay? And here's the third one. You feel as if there's a sense of dread, like there's a fear. You're afraid, but you're not sure exactly what you're afraid of. It's just a feeling. Many of us feel it in our stomachs, like, "Ooh, my stomach hurts. I'm not sure what's going on. I feel as if something horrible is going to happen, although I have no evidence of that. I don't really know. I just wake up and I'm feeling yucky." I'll say yucky. So those are 3 signs to look out for in your body, so you know, okay, I might need to do something different. Okay? Now the thing is, stress, when we are presented with stress, what is the brain's job? The brain's job is to respond, to come up with a way to keep us safe. So there are many different ways your body might decide to keep you safe. It might say, "Okay, we're going to freeze. We're going to pretend as if nothing horrible is happening. We're just going to freeze right here in place." So your body might feel like it's got little energy. You don't want to wake up from the bed. Or your body might feel like, "We're going to escape. We're going to run." And so you might be a little bit hyperactive. You can't stop moving. You can't stop doing. Yeah, very fidgety. Your body feels like it's in a state of flight. Hmm? Here's another one. It might feel, though, like it's in a state of fight. See that snappy comeback? Yeah, don't be. That's, yeah. So that's a response to stress. Okay. I want to talk about the hormones a little bit because I think that's important. I think we want to know these things so that we can pay attention to these things. Now, your body is going to, your brain, that's its job, right? In keeping you safe, in making you, helping you decide, are we going to run? Are we going to freeze? Are we going to fight? Yeah, we're going to just faint and fall out. It's generating hormones and neurotransmitters in your brain. Now, these same neurotransmitters that are meant to keep you safe, to help you take care of yourself, if they keep gushing through your body on a chronic basis, they're going to make you sick. They're going to make you sick. So a hormone like cortisol, which shows up in response to stress, too much cortisol is going to lead to inflammation in your body. And inflammation is at the source of many, many physical ailments. Okay? So, in addition to the mental health, the high anxiety, the depression, and the sadness from feeling so overwhelmed, this is too much for me, your body could also be getting sick. So, what are we going to do about it? Okay? What are we going to do about it? Before we do something about it, here are some examples of what these hormones might do in your body if your stress is chronic. If your stress is chronic. So you might have fatigue in your body, blurred eyesight, panic attacks, yeah, where your palms start sweating and it feels like your heart is about to just explode. You might feel faint or dizzy. Some of us experience sudden weight gain or sudden weight loss. Like I said, sweating. For women, you might even lose your period, okay? There are changes to your menstrual cycle. If that's happening on the physical and you're thinking nothing is happening mentally, you want to pay attention. You want to pay attention to that. Sleep problems. And we know that sleep problems also impact other health areas, right? Constipation, diarrhea could also be a sign that you're overly stressed. Okay? And if you have physical problems existing, those might get worse. Now, sometimes I've talked about Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, which is in ordinary lingo called broken heart syndrome. And that can feel very similar to a heart attack. Okay? So if you're experiencing high stress, I shared my story with you guys in 2022, about 8 weeks after my fiance died. I ended up in the hospital with Takotsubo cardiomyopathy because I couldn't catch my breath. By the time my son got me to the hospital, the doctor said, whatever enzyme that shows up when you're having a heart attack is spiked in your body. Okay. And yes, mentally, when you're moving through life's challenges, you're thinking, yes, I'm doing the best I can. But you need to know that your body is also working overtime. Your body is also working overtime. And if that pressure is just relentless, it must respond. And sometimes the body will break in response. Okay. So, some of you might be, if you find yourself biting your nails, grinding your teeth, clenching your jaw, you're grinding your teeth down in your sleep, you're spending too much, you're shopping too much, you might be overly stressed. Okay? You might be overly stressed. So, what can we do? What can we do? I'll tell you my personal top three and then I'll share three others. So, my personal top three that I actively practice and actively had to dig deep and practice were number one, getting out in nature, getting out into the sun, walking among trees, fresh air, clean air, close to water. So that's called biophilia. Biophilia. Think of it as nature therapy. Number two, social support. You need your squad. You need your squad. You need your squad. You need at least one person, at least one other person on your side that you can call, you can talk to, who might show up. Yeah, you can sit and just share. If you're blessed, I'm blessed. I had many people who were my support, and I could lean on them to take some of that pressure off. You've got to learn to ask for help. You have to learn to ask for help. Say it one more time. You have to learn to ask for help. That's actually a sign of emotional intelligence to be able to ask for help. Okay? So now my number 3 is travel. Get away from your normal and your everyday and your habitual and do something different. Give your brain something different to do. Give your brain many different things to do. So I'm going to add a few extras, like in that category of doing new things, learn a new hobby, start doing new activities to distract your brain from everything else that it's worrying about. Okay? Everything else that you're worrying about. If you're at university or if you have a child at university, that stage of life is very sensitive, tender, because your kid is leaving home, that big and predictable social support system, leaving home and going off to a new place, meeting new people, facing new problems, new experiences, which their brain is going to look at as stress, as stressful. So, parents, especially around this time of year, I really want you to be focusing, if you have kids who are going off to college, start focusing on helping them create little networks, little support groups. Yeah, encourage them to join groups when they get on campus, participate in student life so that they're not feeling so alone. Alone. Okay? Now, the big one that always has to be said is that stress, again, stress, I mean, the pressure can get so great that some people don't want to be alive anymore. It's too much, it's too heavy, it feels overwhelming. And so, if you get to that state, if somebody you know and somebody you love gets to that state as a child, as a spouse, as a friend, and that person shares that with you, please don't minimize it. Please don't say, let's pray about it. Okay, let me restate that. You can say, let's pray about it. But really, if those words leave that person's mouth or come to your mind, you need a higher level of support. So you need to call 911, you need to call or text 988. Or if you're in Dominica, you need to call the hospital or you need to call your nurse. You cannot underestimate the power of stress one way or another, because there's some positive stress, like, I mean, going out on a date is positive stress. You're starting a new job, that's positive stress. But just remember, the last time you started a new job, seriously, didn't you feel that kind of feeling in your body? Like, oh my God, there's anticipation, but there's also that feeling of like, oof, oof, what am I going to meet? Because it's a new situation and your brain is only doing its job of trying to protect you. Okay, so it responds with these hormones that lead us to feel these sensations in the body, and that can feel overwhelming for some of us. Okay, you cannot underestimate stress. I i i am theorizing that in Dominica, when the research is done, which I hope the research is being done because the problem is very clear, I strongly believe that the level of stress is too high right now because there have been back to back to back to back stressors, but underlying that has been ongoing stress for many people as well. And so I want to encourage you now, the individual, because you are powerful and you have the power. It is your responsibility to manage your stress. See, because again, two of us could be experiencing the same event, and one of us has learned how to go walk in nature, huh? Has learned how to call a friend, has learned how to form support groups, right? And the other one is a loner. Now, withdrawing and being alone is not, generally speaking, in your best interest. So if you ever find yourself isolating to the point where you don't want to be around, you don't want to deal with people, very often that's a sign. hmm, Very often that's a sign, especially if that's not your temperament, typically. Very often that's a sign that you might be experiencing too much stress in your environment. Okay? So you as the individual, you have a responsibility. It's your job, it's your job, okay? To learn how to manage stress. It's strategy, all of it. It's just strategy and technique, okay? And actively doing it. Like if I feel overwhelmed right now, if I feel tears or sadness threatening, I'm telling you, I will activate my walk around the lake because I already know that by the time I make one circle, my body is going to be generating new hormones, different neurochemicals, and they're going to be impacting my body in a different way. So I will see a shift. Hmm? I know that if I call and ask for help, somebody's going to sit on the phone with me and talk with me, right? As opposed to just bearing the burden of the stress alone. You can do that if you want, but it is a lot of work. And we don't realize it, I think, because especially if you grow up, again, like I say, in a culture where you're taught to be strong, you're also taught to minimize emotion. For example, what I mean by that is an example like your parents saying, buckle up, stop crying, things like that. Those are familiar words, right? What do you have to be crying about? Why are you sad? Why are you irritated? Okay? So if you're acculturated or socialized in that way, you're more than likely as an adult going to, on your first posture, assume, I can handle this. I can handle anything. Yes, you can. But there are some things that by nature are just very heavy. And so you want to know those symptoms. You want to know your body. You want to know, yeah, that if I'm feeling my heart beating faster than normal, I'm waking up and I'm feeling heavy, I'm waking up and I'm feeling this sense of something horrible might happen, although there's no evidence of it. Something might be going on. And again, as I talk about Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, and as I say that, and I invite you to erase that word minority because you're not a minority of anything. I'm not sure who came up with that word and why, because just the word minority in and of itself suggests less than. Whoever it is who came up with that, I'm not receiving that, but it is supposed to be the mental health awareness of people who, brown people, right? BIPOC people. Um, Pay attention to the fact that many of us culturally, we experience our stress in our bodies. So you're going to see higher rates of diabetes. My sugar is high. I'll tell you something about sugar, high sugar, in a second on a psychosomatic level. Psychosomatic is about the connection between the mind and the body and how the mind can make the body sick. Yeah, the mind can make the body sick because your thoughts are so powerful that it is through your thoughts, right, that you're interpreting the events in your life, right? So, depending on what I'm thinking as I'm experiencing whatever it is, because whatever it is that's happening is just a thing. Somebody calling me a name, say, whatever name is not negative until I decide it's negative, right? And until I start thinking it's a negative thing. Okay. So this idea of the power of your mind on your body, you have to watch that too. So when we talk about sugar, like we call it sugar, many of our people will say my sugar is high. Huh? In a psychosomatic way of interpreting that, one might say this person is lacking sweetness in their life. This person is lacking sweetness in their life. Hmm? Many of us, our blood pressure is up, high. Hmm? Stress, stress, stress. Hmm? And because it's easier for us to feel it in our bodies than for us to speak it with our mouths, because when we speak it with our mouths, people around us who taught us might think we are being weak or might think we're looking for attention. Hmm? And so we keep it inside, and our body expresses the stress. I want to encourage you to allow your tongue to express the stress. That's what the tongue is for. The tongue is for expressing. The tongue is for speaking, talking, releasing, hmm? Right? Purging, as opposed to letting that stick, right? And hold it, attach itself to your body. There's so many different ways to manage stress than allowing our bodies to absorb the brunt of it. Yeah. Use your words. Yes. Ask for help, even if as an adult you feel weak. It's okay. See, you have been perhaps the caregiver for everybody around you. You're the nice sister, the nice auntie, the good friend. Hmm? Many of you are. Yes or no? Hmm? And many of you have become addicted to suffering in silence so that you can keep up that posture and keep up that title because it feels good. And some of us, that's where we get our strokes. It's great. It's a beautiful thing to be a nice person, not at your expense. So you don't have to walk around being the strong one for everybody, but you're falling apart inside. No, you have a responsibility, a job to do tonight. If you're listening to me, you have a job to do tonight to begin to use your emotional intelligence and ask for help. Asking for help when you don't have the information is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. It's a sign of emotional intelligence, not weakness. Okay? This July month, where we're focusing on our mental health, focus on using your words to express what you're feeling inside. I feel angry with you, my love, because it is totally human to feel angry with my love. Because I express my feeling of anger towards my love does not mean I have stopped loving my love. And many of us are making this mistake. And so we're suffering in silence and we're tolerating a lot of pain without cause. Pain is stress. The nurses here and the doctors will tell you, they know this. If your body, if your toe is hurting, right? And you take your blood pressure compared to a day when you're fine and your body has no pain, your blood pressure is going to be higher on a day when you're feeling pain because you're putting stress on the body. It's stressful. It's stressful. So, those of you who are not considering the fact that you're working with people who are very nasty to you, they're doing mean things, or you're working with bosses who are not paying you properly or not paying you well, and day in, day out, you go in there, you sit, next to this person across a cubicle, maybe, who is mean and nasty day to day to day to day. Many of us on Facebook, and you're back and forth with each other, negative interactions, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, stress, stress. We wake up and we're scrolling through TikTok, like doom scrolling, right? Is what it's called, where we're just going down the rabbit hole of we don't even know. And when we start to experience the stress in our bodies, we don't stop. I'm going to give you a little technique to interrupt yourself. Do this. Say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get up. There's a book actually with that strategy. Okay, that calls that strategy by name. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Move. Try it on anything. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Move your body. Do something. Get up. Interrupt the pattern. Interrupt it. You're not, what you call, you're not hypnotized. You don't have to allow yourself to be hypnotized by anything. And if you're feeling like, oh my goodness, I can't stop scrolling, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Move your body. Okay? This is very important for people like us who have been trained to absorb pain, to feel pain and keep a straight face. Please stop. You're not helping yourself. And I want to suggest that you're not helping the people around you either, because they don't know you if you're not sharing yourself with them. So you're not helping them. You're definitely, like I said, not helping yourself. Those of you who have been taught that to be a good wife, you have to close your lips, you are hurting yourself, and you're not being a good mate, in my view, because you're cheating your mate out of the true experience of learning who you are. If everything is always good and right with you, because you happen to be the female human being in that equation, you know, you're shortchanging the relationship and you're shortchanging your mate. You're definitely shortchanging yourself, and your body is going to express it in illness, because what your tongue cannot speak, your body will feel it and express it for you. Okay? And I'm telling you that the reason you're doing that is because you're thinking certain thoughts. You're thinking to yourself thoughts like, I got this, I'm strong, I can do this by myself, people never help me anyway. Oh, it'll pass. Yeah, it'll pass, but in the meantime, I mean, couldn't it pass faster? It could pass faster, right? It could pass faster. There's no medal for being the pain absorber. There's no medal. In fact, the medal is an early grave. Medal is an early grave. So events are going to happen. We're alive. Remember, in large measure, it's about how I perceive the thing that's coming at me. Somebody calls me a name on Facebook. You know, they use certain words to describe me or to share their thoughts about me. I can look at that as just the person's expression of their inner world, or I could look at it as an attack, and I could really absorb the shock and the blow of that. And I can, although the thing happened last week, I could be replaying it in my mind with my thoughts, right? Or I could 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up, go do something different. Okay? I'm telling you, nature, unbeatable. Go out and walk in nature, in the sun, among the trees, hug a tree. Yeah? Hug it. Okay? Social support. Create if you don't have it yet. And if some of us, we say, well, I don't have anybody in my life that I can lean on. I'm going to suggest that you find somebody on Facebook. Go join a group of like minded people. They could be from Germany. You might make a friend from Australia. Find groups of people, hmm, with similar mindsets, or with similar hobbies. Yeah, okay? And then move, change your location, travel. Yeah, you can go far, you can go close. You can travel to the beach, but you change the scenery, give your brain new things to look at, new things to do. And you can start calling those experiences that seem stressful different things. Okay, different things. So those are my three: fix it and leave Jesus alone. He's not coming to fix it for you. He's not going to come fix it for you. He loves you, but he loves you. He's not going to come fix it for you. You got to do it. Okay? Join the Dominica Garden Club. It's a happy place. Okay? It's a happy place. You want to titrate, like go just measure the amount of nastiness you absorb from social media, from the news, even. I stopped watching the news. Uh, I used to be a news junkie, not just the news. I used to be the news. It stayed on all day, every day, and it was just like the fan or the AC in the background, like that all day. And I also used to watch Forensic Files and all of the 48 hours and all of the gruesome stuff. And then one day I asked myself, well, why are you doing this? Really, why are you absorbing all of these images and sounds? Why? What's in it for you? How is that helping you or supporting you? And I stopped. I stopped because I would feel irritated, frustrated, anxious as I interacted with that stimuli. Okay? So you do an assessment in your life and see, what can I ease out of my life? What can I decrease? What do I need to increase so that I change the formula, I change the chemical composition of my life, right? So I change my environment so that my body can have different experiences now with my environment. Okay? I'm in a relationship that is just not working. We've got to change that environment. We need to go sit with a therapist. Okay? Or I might need to go as far as changing the environment of, I can't be getting up, waking up to you every day. Or a job. I can't be walking into a workspace like this every day. Are you telling me there are no other jobs on the entire planet? Well, can I not even create something myself? So this is how, you know, hardcore some of you need to be thinking, to change, to change, to change often your environment if you can, and if you cannot, to change your perception, to change what you're doing, especially internally with the information that's coming at you. Okay? Yeah, that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 strategy is like, hey, it's kind of like a countdown, but it's not all the way to like 10, 9, 8. Some people might actually have to go 3, 2, 1, right? Just interrupt your pattern, interrupt whatever it is that you're doing if that thing is not in your best interest, because you are so worthy of the best and you have so much power to create it. It is your job, your responsibility to create it. Yeah. So as I start winding down, so for a beautiful island like Dominica, like I said, where in 2003 we were talking about Mapampo, right? And people like my grandpa Niall, people who are living to be 124, and to be facing right now just an onslaught. It feels like an onslaught because those of you who are listening from Dominica, you remember when there was a death announcement on DBS and it was one person for weeks. Yes? So something else is happening. Something else is happening. The air is the same. Ross University did a research study on the centenarians in Dominica, and their conclusions were that it was the food was organic, it was the air is clean, the water is clean. Hmm? I think it was more than that. And I've always thought it was more than that. It's more than the biology, it's also the environment, and it's also the internal, the way we perceive. I think for the centenarians of Dominica, it was what I personally call the Creole mindset, where they had parables, they had wisdom sayings, they had ways they looked at life and they interpreted events. So horrible things, what we might call horrible, would happen in their external, but they would call it something different. They would make a different story about it, or they would talk about it. They often did that. So two neighbors would be walking, they'd be going to the garden, and they would stop. And one was emotionally stressed out, and they would wait until they had talked all the way to the end where the other one was feeling good. When people said, "How are you?" they meant, "How are you?" And they would wait and they would talk it through. And then they'd go about their way, even if it meant they were now going up to the garden at 11 o'clock. So there was a lot of social support. Now, what's different on a little island like that? Social support is has been really tampered with. It's been tampered with environmentally. Is an artificial way where social support is now based on your political beliefs. Yes or no? So people who used to support each other organically and naturally are actually now looking for opportunities to not. We need social support though. And my family circle alone can't be where I get it. Well, that's not how the centenarians did it. Yeah, that's not how they did it. Yes or no? They would leave one village and go to a complete other village just to hang out. Yes. It was not just the food, it was the parables, the powerballs. Yeah. Really, we encourage each other with these words and these sayings. Hmm? My way is what? Tie your waist, gird your loins, strengthen yourself. Sifoni Natiwell. Natiwell is what? Unconditional love for your fellow man. That was like drinking water. Hmm? So I think that's part of the internal process and the stuff that was happening in the centenarians. Yeah. That was adding to their life. It was not just the food and the water. That was a big deal, yes. But it was the way they managed stress. And they would say, Sakafet, Sakafet is how are you? Sakafet. The other one would say, Molawi, Molakavwe mize pamo. What does that mean? That meant, yes, things are hard, but I'm not dying. Hmm? And they ended often on the up note. On the up note, meaning on the positive. So, yes, I'm suffering, but I'm not dying. So, the way they mentally framed the circumstances of life was geared towards longevity. It was geared towards life. Yeah, it was geared towards life. Mon la mise, mais mon pakamo. Yeah, and they'd say stuff like, what else? Sini bobo, ini logan. So What does that mean? If there's a wound, if there's a sore, there's a healer. There's always a solution for every problem. So yes, we will talk about it, but we know, hey, this is, and it always, the conversations always ended that way. So it's a reframing. There was always a cognitive reframing of whatever the event was. And maybe that's where we just maybe kind of absorbed that, always looking for the best, always looking for the best. But I think we missed the part, if we have to also keep the part where they express the pain. Hmm? Mwen la ka vwe mize. Yeah, things are hard. Me mo pa ka mo. Yeah? As opposed to mwen pa ka mo minus, that's a spiritual bypass. Where we learned a spiritual bypass. A spiritual bypass is where you ignore the pain and you go straight to the solution. But no, if you do that, your body is going to hold the pain, even if you go towards spiritual peace. Yeah? Back to the, we can't just leave it for Jesus to fix. You have to, more like I've where mise, acknowledge that I'm in mise, I'm in pain, give it words, use my tongue to express myself, which is something else that I think the little island lost, the ability to express pain. If I don't express pain with my tongue, my body is going to express the pain with medical and mental health issues, is psychosomatic. Okay? So, if you're listening tonight, I'm telling you to use your words to express pain, express your painful feelings. I feel anxious when you do that. Son, I love you, but I feel angry with you right now. But I love you. Yeah? Mokavwe mise. I feel angry with you right now. Eh? Memo pakamo. But I love you anyway. Okay? Yeah, join the garden club, eh? It's a happy place. So many facts here tonight. Yeah, y'all, we the point of this podcast is to teach strategies, right? To identify problems and to come up with solutions. I strongly encourage you to use the solutions. Okay? Use the solutions. Amma says we also had a lot of social groups in church, social support and social engagement, lots of activities. You see that? So, in the research on longevity, what is longevity? Longevity is what my pampo did, which is to live to 124. It's what my grandpa did to live to 106. It's what my other grandpa did to live to 92, right? Lots of social support and social engagement. Those are two of the most critical variables when it comes to determining how long do people live. Yeah. I think we've maintained a lot of activities, as in a lot of social engagement, but we do not have the social support. We dropped the social support. You need both in the equation for longevity and good mental health. Okay? So, what am I saying is correct. Plays and shows were there to look forward to. We had our playwrights, yeah, going all through the villages with the plays, right? Every night we gathered around our grandparents for stories. Every night. Every night. Everybody sat down together and had dinner, and we just talk for hours and hours and hours. Amma says she always wanted a story, and we enjoyed things like parliament debates. You looked forward to the parliament debates. Cricket on the radio. Cricket at 2 o'clock in the morning. They're playing in Australia. Yeah, Europe. Paul Keynes Douglas, the comedian. Yeah. Tanti Merle in the Oval. Yes, we gathered on moonlit nights to sing and tell stories. Social support, social engagement. We can't maintain our pride and joy, our centenarian phenomenon in Dominica without social support. And I'm strongly encouraging wise people to shift back to the social support added to the social engagement. We're doing the social engagement great, but the social support has been artificially interfered with by politics. And so people who used to be able to lean on each other don't always trust each other. In fact, they go further than that and they worry that they might harm each other. So that is completely opposite to social support. Okay? So I encourage you to start creating little networks, little networks uh, that are non-partisan, little networks that are non-partisan, because I think that has been a chronic stressor on the island. It's been chronic. Again, it's not as if after an election the country went back. No, it's not. The stress has continued for many people. Okay? And many people have lost their wanting or their sense of comfort in speaking their pain. And so there's going to have very nasty impacts on something like this. Yes, because stress is one of the biggest determinants of mental health and medical health problems. So Amma says yesterday somebody where she worked jumped off over 8 stories. We have to learn to ask for help. We have to learn to speak up when we're in pain. You're not doing yourself a favor by tolerating pain and not expressing it with your body part assigned to expression. If not, the rest of your psyche, the rest of your body is going to absorb the pain and it'll find a way to release it. You're just probably not going to like the way it does it. Okay? So, I want to thank you all for showing up. Yes, suffering in silence is not good for you. It's not good for you. It's not good for you anywhere. It's not good for you. And very often, sometimes you think you're protecting the people around you. You're not. It's not in their best interest either. Okay? All right, y'all. So I hope you all have a lovely, lovely, lovely rest of your evening. I remember the stories and the plays too. I'm so grateful to people like Alex, Powell, Bruno, and Alwyn Bully. Yeah, Ted Daly, those guys. All the actors and actresses that would go around the country with the plays and the stories, Green Gold, and the other stuff they had on the radio that kept you entertained, but in a communal sort of way, and it was so highly positive. It was so highly positive. Good night to you too. Yeah, you are very welcome for the strategies. Okay. Selassie, a people without arts and culture will be divided as a nation and will adopt subcultures. For example, yes, and without their own indigenous art and culture, you lose your essence. So you lose your essence, you lose your identity without your art and your culture. Okay, so it's time to come back. You know, I call that circle back. It's time to circle back. Thank you, Faye, Dasheen. You are very welcome. Okay, y'all. So thank you all for listening. I hope you all have a lovely Thursday and nous que parler à l'autre fois. Peace.